Hey everybody, welcome to the Beehive. I'm your host, TheBee at LLC, and this is where we stack precious metals like it's pollen and nectar. And today I believe we're going to be having Aaron Berk join us here in a minute. And, I just received a coin from him and have yet to open it, so let's get into that. So we have, let me zoom in on this. We have a Thessaly Larissa 350 to 340 BC, a drum, 5.93 grams. Double signed by artist. Head of Larissa facing slightly left with IA above head. On the reverse, we have a horse preparing to roll, and AI, the signature below the stomach. Again, I believe with Larissa in Exburg. And so this coin is from Larissa, and that's kind of right below, or to the a little to the east and south of Macedonia. And this, they're famous for their horses, and I mean that's one of the things that Alexander the Great and his conquest was famous for, I think, was his horses. So I don't know. I know they came down and kind of took over this area, but that was a little after this coin was minted. Here's Aaron. Let's bring him up in here. Aaron, good to see you.
But you didn't get a letter or nothing, right?
No.
Can you hear me?
I got to do an online call now.
1 second while we get our volume here.
A live meeting.
Oh, okay.
So, yes.
Can you shut my door? Thanks. Hey, what's up, man? Nice Larissa.
Yeah, so I find this a very cool coin.
Can you hear me? Hello.
And I like how every time I've gotten a coin from Aaron, I end up really happy with it in hand. The pictures aren't overdone. Usually I'm a little more impressed with it in hand than I think it might be so far anyway. Can you hear me yet, Aaron?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I just can't hear you yet.
Can you hear me now?
I got no audio from you. Neil says, Neil, can you hear me or Aaron or just me? James Real, welcome in. Good to see you.
It says my it's on.
Okay, you hear both of us. Okay, that's cool. Then it might be on my end. Let me figure out what's going on here.
Yeah. I'm gonna heat my coffee up.
Okay, there we are. I got you. I had it on mute. My bad.
I'll be back in 1 second.
Okay. Thank you, Neil. Okay, so now that we got our audio straightened out there, so yeah, let's look at this coin here. Let me get my pointer. And also, actually, while he's out, let me grab. I'm gonna look up.
Sorry, I'm going to an online meeting. What is up, guys?
What is going on?
Welcome to the jungle.
That's right.
Welcome to the jungle.
Hey, Homestead, good to see you.
Ah,
Yeah, so sorry, I had my site on mute there. You were all good.
oh, I'm always good.
Right, I'm sure. Okay, well, I just actually opened this coin up for the first time here and looking at it, and I was just saying I'm always impressed that the I thought it might be a bit rougher from your pictures, but it really is actually quite clean.
Well, the video, we had a video of it, right?
Yeah, no, I mean it definitely sold me, but for some reason I'm always impressed when I get them in my hand. They're not overdone, I guess is what I'm saying in your
Yeah, I get it.
videos. So yeah, I couldn't. There's a few things there. Is this have any relation to the Arethusa coin? Like, was this influenced by that?
No,
Or
in a way, yes, but it's possible. But you know, they're made relatively close to the same time period. But that's a water nymph, which is same as the Syracuse piece. But a lot of the facing heads had that same look.
okay.
But they're underwater, so their hair is flowing.
Okay, I didn't realize this one was supposed to be a water nymph as well. Okay.
It is.
Okay. And so was there a close enough relationship there or
No, I think they're different. You have
Yeah.
different gods and goddesses for different things.
Okay.
And it's just the you know, that's who the city worshipped, and so that's what they put on their coins.
So they probably had a lot of statues and whatnot of this same, because I noticed with some of the other examples of this coin, this one appeared to me more to have that underwater flowing hair look, where a lot of the other ones are just kind of curly looking.
Yeah, there's a lot of different dyes. My father actually, probably about 20 years ago, 25 years ago, he tried to collect Larissa by dye, and he had to give up because it was impossible. And at one point, we probably had about 250 different dyes issues.
Okay.
We had a double row box, you know. So double row box is like, here I have a double row box here.
Hey, William E. Good to see you, Southeast.
This is a double row. This is a double row box. We had an entire double row box full of Larissas, all different dyes.
Wow.
So,
wow.
So he stopped because it just was impossible. He couldn't do it. and they're also signed. A lot of them there are signed dyes. You'll have like the letters of the engraver.
Yeah.
On the horse, or there you can see it under the horse there. That's the actual signature of the engraver.
Yeah, that AI right there, guys. That and then I was
really for a signed die. A lot of the signed Syracusan pieces are very, very expensive. Larissa in general is pretty inexpensive for the type, and one, it's because it's so plentiful in the market and not as popular as, say, Sicilian coins are. Even though I think the artwork is very comparable.
Okay. Yeah, so there's an A and an I, and I thought they did a really good job of kind of blending it with the artwork as well.
Yeah, so that's double signed on both sides, which is also something that happens in so there might be some relationship there with the Syracusan coins, because they also were signed.
So do you find, like, would I be able to find another, Larissa coin with AI, like the same signature on another, quite a few of the same? Okay. Very cool.
Absolutely.
So it might be
There's
possible.
also one with Sigma. It's 4-letter signed. You'll get that sometimes. Yeah, there's a couple really. That's a really nice die because you get the nice 3/4 view. There's some that are a little bit more realistic. That one has a nice realistic view to it. There's some that are very crude that don't have the same, die quality, artistically speaking, that this one has, and some of the other ones have. There's even some that actually have like part of the shoulders, her shoulders, and
Oh,
with design on them, which is pretty cool.
wow. Yeah, I was impressed with the overall artwork. Just I
Mm-hmm.
thought on both sides, especially the horses, I thought it was quite well proportionalized. And I have been around horses, and that's a very true look to before they go to roll like that. So
Sure.
I thought that was
Sure, there, a lot of coins are showing, well, Larissa obviously was good at training and breeding horses, and so that was a big part of their economy, and so they put it on their coins, and then showing like, everyday views of, people or doing things in agriculture or whatever the case might be, was also important to show as, because you got to remember, ancient coins were propaganda for the cities, and so that's how they got their history across. And that's why it's always strange to me when a source country says, "Oh, that's our coin, we want it back." That coin was actually issued to trade
right.
outside of their boundaries. And so to say that they own it because when the ancients actually produced it, it was made to move, it was made to travel. It wasn't made to be like, "Oh, I got to have that back." So, um, and that's where coins differ from antiquities. Most antiquities are actually, even though even in ancient times, antiquities did travel because you had source countries at the time that produced certain types of pottery or oil lamp that then would get exported out. So it's not that antiquities were indigenous to a region, but the problem is you can't make an argument between a facade of a building and an actual antiquity. They're all antiquities. And so it's very difficult to then decide to write laws or regulations for one antiquity over another antiquity. So it's makes it hard. But for coins, they were mass produced. They were made to travel. In some cases, like in Athens, we now know that the Athenian tetragram with the Athene on one side and the owl on the other was actually issued in all different cities throughout the ancient world. So if you had a lot of silver, you would issue a coin that looked like the coins of Athens because most people were illiterate, but they knew imagery. And so if you
Sure.
had silver that looked like the official coins, then they were accepted.
Well, that's even, and I hear you on the level you're talking to, but when I first got into them, that was kind of one of the things that I was saying, or at least intrigued me, was I felt like they had speech without even being necessarily able to read. Like,
So somebody just asked a question about the dies. Excuse me. Official dies are very hard to find because they would keep striking the coins until the dies broke. And so that's why you get a lot of die wear on ancient coins, because as they were striking, you get a die flaw or a break in the die, and you see that same crack happen over and over again, or that same flaw happen over and over
yeah,
again. Sometimes I think it's funny when, not funny, but it's interesting when some people will condemn a coin because they say it has the same blemishes, the same marks, so it's obviously a cast. Well, it could be that it's from the same die.
sure,
It doesn't mean that it's fake.
right,
So people forget that these things are mass produced, are not one of a kind pieces. And
right,
so there's a very good chance that you're going to have that. So what dies do survive are forgery dies. And when I say forgery, I mean contemporary forgeries. So you're having a bunch of silver and you you create a die in the ancient times based on an official coin, and you would strike either full silver coins, or they were cheating, and so they would actually strike a coin that looked like an official coin with a copper core and a silver wash. That's called a foray. And so that's what they were really making the forgers dies for that reason, to be able to screw somebody over. And I actually have one. I've showed it on this show before, I'm pretty sure.
yep.
I actually have a forger's die. So that's a forger's die.
Okay, let me grab you here. Yes,
And this is a reverse of a antiquized pious, I believe.
Okay, cool.
And so it's copper. So this is all copper here. And then they would strike this until, so that would be the reverse. You get the obverse die, and then they would strike the coin. And so as they're hammering these things, they would break apart. And because they didn't create as many forgeries as the official dies, a lot of these can survive. They're still rare, but in fact, C&G has I believe it's a forger's die. It might be official, but I think it's a forger's die of an Athens tetragram coming up in their next mail bid sale.
Oh, wow.
So, and I actually viewed it at the ANA. It was pretty cool. So
Is it a good die too, kind of, or?
It was a very good die. It was a reverse. Actually, if you want to hold on a second, somewhere in the piles of crap that I have on hold on. I know there's a copy out here. Hold on a second.
Piles of antiquity. Question: is the offset strike on the coin or worn out on one side? So, yeah, sometimes one side of the die will be more worn than the other.
Here's the C&G sale that's coming up the end of September, or middle to end of September. And let me find the die here. So it should be in Greek.
So one die might be fresh, like this side might be a fresh die, whereas this
and they would swap out dies when they break, right? So
Right.
they had problems. So you might have a fresh obverse die and a weak reverse die.
Yep.
Or vice versa. And there was some quality control there, but you got to remember they were just popping out to, gold and silver were treasury coins, and so they were literally just. It was all about the amount of weight of silver and gold in the coin. So the imagery, yes, was important, but not so important. Where is that die? Where did they stick it? Sometimes people organize things really weird.
Yeah, so there's the AI guys right there up at the top. AI.
Where are you at?
I'm not even showing myself.
Nope.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
So
anything to help.
Yeah, I can use a lot. Okay, so
you're not supposed to admit to that.
Okay, thanks for that as well. So right there, it kind of looks like the hair.
C&D feature, yeah, okay. So it's lot 127. Thank you. 126. Here it is.
TheBee helping out as well.
There's the.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, cool. Oh, wow. It's a big square piece. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I held it in my hand. It was pretty cool. Actually, you'll like this even more. Just keep it on me for a second.
Okay.
You're gonna have something that most people don't have.
Sweet. Thanks, TheBee.
Videos.
TheBee is always helping out where he can as well.
Oh, here it is. Here's a video of it.
Oh, wow.
So that's cool. That's when I held it at the recent ANA. You can see how big it is.
Man, both on one die there. That's interesting. Okay.
No, that's just the reverse die.
Oh, okay.
It's just the outside.
What's that thing on the side there?
I think that was to hold it in place.
Okay.
To hold the reverse die in place. It probably had some kind of clamp or something. What do you feel? The 10,000 is it legit? Yeah, I think it's legit. I think it'll probably, look, there was a Mark Anthony Legionary Denarius die. I think it brought about 10 grand a number of years ago. And I bought this forger's die of this pious. I only paid like 4,000 for it, which I thought was really cheap because they're really rare. But it's not as popular as, say, an Athens tetragram. So I think that the chances of it going for 10 to 15,000, I could see it going higher. isn't out of the realm of possibilities.
Yeah.
So they're so rare. And it really, if you're a serious coin collector and you have a lot of money, then, owning some of, even though it's a forger's die, it represents what the dies could have looked like, the official ones at the time. So,
Sure. Yeah.
and actually own the production of something that you hold so dearly, I think is pretty damn cool.
Oh, it's amazing.
I mean, that's why I'm not selling the die. I actually have the die put away for this type of thing.
Yeah.
So I can show it off when I want to. I mean, I can
Yeah,
always sell it, but I can never get it back.
right.
So, how easy is something to replace? And yes, I'm a dealer. I'm not supposed to be collecting, but we're all kind of collectors at heart. So, look, what I'm buying to sell to other clients are coins that I like. And so I'm only going to buy things that I think have a good resale value. But I'm also, from a collector standpoint, I'm buying things that I enjoy, that I think other people will enjoy as well. I'm not going to buy a coin just to buy a coin unless it's dirt cheap, so I can make it dirt cheap to the next person. But if it's something I really like, I'm okay spending X amount on it because I know that somebody else is going to appreciate it as a collector like I do. So
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, I agree with you, Doug. I think any kind of dies, forgery or not, are very collectible, very, very collectible.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
And
Well, since we're
especially when you get contemporary, ancient ones, it's pretty cool.
Contemporary, what do you mean by that? Contemporary.
Well, they're made at the same time as the official ones.
Okay.
They're still 2,000-year-old dies.
Sure.
So that's just, they were forgeries at the time. They're not modern forgeries. They're contemporary. I mean, contemporary to the time.
So I was reading a bit in this book that you sent me, which is very, very interesting. And he was talking a bit about some of the crude and rough done stuff. And you wonder if some of the, dies, like you're saying, like that was probably for forays, you're saying, right? Instead of an official, or the one you have?
Mine's not an official. Mine is a forgery die.
For foray. And he was talking about in this book, maybe even sometimes being minted out in the field. And that might be where some of the crude coins are coming from.
Sure. I mean, a really good example of forays that could have been done officially are coins minted by Brutus of the Eidmar, the very famous, Eidmar coin, because he was in a civil war against Augustus and Mark Antony, and so if he was running out of silver, he may have passed off some of the Eidmars as forays, because it seems to be that a lot of the forays are struck with official dies. And so it could have been that his minters were screwing over their own military, or they were paying him to mercenaries to fight. So
yeah, interesting. All right.
But forays are very collectible. A lot of people love collecting forays because they're usually a lot cheaper. Look, an Eidmar now, official Eidmar, is like, one just brought $1.2 million in auction. You're looking at $200,000 to $300,000 minimum for an official Eidmar, but a foray might only cost you, between $10,000 and $50,000. Still a lot of money. Most people can't afford that, but it's a lot less than an official struck one.
Sure, no doubt. So I did want to ask you about the language on this coin. It is saying Larissa down there at the bottom on the exurg? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
usually it's an abbreviation of the name, but it means they usually have the city's name on it.
Okay.
So, and I'll bring up one other point. This is kind of like a side thing, but if any of you like the 100 Greatest series, we're in our third volume of the third edition 100 Greatest Coins. When I was at the ANA in Chicago a couple weeks ago, Whitman, who's the publisher of my dad's book, The 100 Greatest, they decided to start going smaller format on some of their regular books. And the first one that they did was a 6x9 of the 100 Greatest.
Oh, nice.
So it's a much smaller version. The other one's tabletop. So here's the tabletop version, and here's the new version.
Nice, cool.
And it's the exact same book.
Okay.
Except this one can actually go with you to shows. Easy to carry around. It's easier to ship. And this one costs $25. This one's $35. So it's also cheaper.
And does it have the same quality of pages and whatnot in there? In the small?
Same pages.
Oh, cool. Right on. Awesome.
The only difference is that this one's matte and this one is gloss.
Okay.
That's the only difference. But, you know, but it's all the same language. It's all the same, you know, maybe because it doesn't have gloss, it's maybe not as high quality, but but all the verbiage, there's nothing missing in it, put it that way. It's all the same.
Cool.
So, you know, I mean, here is obviously here's the Eidmar.
Yep.
So a little bit different layout. Because here's the Eidmar on this page, and here is the Eidmar on the larger format.
Yeah, very cool.
So it's just an everything's just more abbreviated.
Okay.
That's all.
That's awesome. I'll probably have to get me one of each. I really like the big ones as well. There's
big ones are good. It's just hard to ship, and it's not like you can put this in your backpack easily. You know?
Right, or on the coffee table necessarily.
I saw a lot of people buying these and walking around with them at the show. It just makes it easier. You know, like, or if you go on a trip, it's easier to take this on a trip than it is to take this big thing on a trip. This is more for the coffee table at home. This is more for like carrying it around. So as far as the population goes, somebody asked, I've heard now up to about 120 silver Eidmar are available, you know, or out there, museum, you know, in circulation. I think that for the gold, there's only 3. 2 in institutions. Well, one is in an institution. One just got returned to Greece because it was confiscated. And then there's the one with the hole, which is in the new 100 greatest, which my client owns. So now my client owns the only one in private hands. And but silver ones, there was only at one point, there was only 50 or 60. And then there was a hoard found in the 90s in Greece, supposedly on a farm. And if you look at most Eidmars that come onto the market without old pedigrees, they're all from that hoard. And they were all improperly cleaned, and they all have rough surfaces.
Oh.
So that probably added 20 to 30 to the population. And then there's been some others, you know, I got the 120 number from NGC because I was at the ANA, and I was talking about Eidmars with David Vagey, who's the head of Ancients there. He's the one who's always on Pawn Stars.
Yep.
And he thought 120 was the range. So
okay.
I would have said 80 to 100. He thinks 120. I'm not going to argue. I think it's all just like, who cares? There's not a lot, but there's more of them than people think. But it's because it's such a popular coin, the price is like skyrocketed. So my client also bought, just to give you an idea on pricing, and you know, people always, when I talk about expensive coins, people are like, you know who you're talking to. Most people can't afford those, but we can all talk about it. I can't afford it either, but I can, and luckily I've gotten to hold them because I represent them. That's the nice thing about being a good dealer, is that I get to represent people who have more money than me. So
yeah, no doubt
it's possible for me to actually handle these things. But so in 2002 or 4, my dad and I were offered a Eidmar that was once owned by the Hunt brothers, and we paid, and it's this coin right here, and we paid $100,000 for this coin in 2002. We held it for a year. The market was crappy. You know, we couldn't sell it, good ancient coins, for anything. We were offering it for $120,000, couldn't sell it. After 1 year, we sold it for $112,000 on payments to a guy in Canada. And then it went through a couple hands. And then in 2012, it ended up in a heritage sale, and it brought $500,000. And that was the first time that an ancient coin had ever brought, like, of that magnitude, had ever brought that kind of money. Because before that, only one ancient coin had broken the $1 million mark. In U.S. coins, it happens all the time, but in ancient coins, it had never happened, except for one time. Now it's happened quite a few times.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So, so this coin actually broke the record for the most expensive Eidmar at 500,000 in 2012. I bought it back. It came back through auction 2 summers ago, and I bought it for my client for 600,000. And so all in, I think he paid about $650,000 for it. And then there was an Eidmar that just came up in the NAC sale in the spring. It was better than this one, had a better pedigree. This one has a 1930s pedigree as well, but the other one had a 30s pedigree, but it was more centered on this reverse side. And it brought all in 1.2 million, which broke the record of this coin. But my point is, we go from us not being able to sell this coin for 120,000 in 2002, for now it brings 650,000. And when I was at the ANA show, I had somebody come up to me, another dealer, and they said their client wants to own this exact coin, and they offered me up to 1.5 million. And my client said no. So actually, my client's a pretty cool guy, and what he said was, when I said the first offer was $1 million, and my client said, no, I don't want to sell it right now, but if I ever do, I'll let him know. And then they came back and they said, well, would he pay? What if he paid up to 1.5 million? And I told my client that, and I said, I know the answer is no, but I'm letting you know because I have to do my due diligence for you to let you know. And his answer to me back was, tell them that there are a lot of Eidmars coming up in the world, and there's no reason to pay that kind of money for one.
Oh, cool.
So he's a good guy.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to see somebody overpay just to make a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, speaking on that, TheBee is asking, do we know about the? Well, let's see, what is he saying?
Well, that's what I was answering.
Okay.
Oh, the die break. Yeah, I mean, you can definitely. There was a study done in the 50s of Eidmars, done by a numismatist named Kahn, and he published all of the silver Eidmars in museums and in collections at the time. And so, yeah, you can see some varieties in the dies and things like that. But since the new Horde came out, that's kind of changed things a bit. So.
Yeah. Neil is asking. He's kind of like me. We're not as knowledgeable, and he's wondering, doesn't know much about it, but advanced dies for the period of time. That might be why there's so few older dies.
Well, I think it's just because they were iron and they were striking coins and they would just break apart. So
and some of the nicer ones, I heard someone say, maybe it was you, that some of them might have been just done for a certain, like a games or something, or an event.
Well, there definitely are. Like every medallion is sort of unique, and so there are bronze ones that are less unique, but gold and silver medallions are generally unique and just produced for special occasions. But they were done officially. And so they typically didn't exist. I actually, just sitting here thinking about it, I have a feeling that as the dies started to wear, they probably just destroyed them because they didn't want them to fall into the wrong hands. So would be my guess as well. If they weren't good enough to strike coins anymore, they probably just destroyed them, or melted them and made new dies. Is probably would be a reasonable thing to think of. So.
Yeah, I can imagine that too, TheBee. Get some vans on which dies. Well, out of those, how many are of the same dies, do you think? Is it?
I haven't done a die study, but there isn't that many dies. And you got to remember, he was doing this Bruce was doing this while he was traveling in Greece and Turkey in the Civil War. So they were all traveling mints, because after he assassinated Julius Caesar, he was run out of Rome basically by the Roman people, because one of the things that was really interesting is that in Julius Caesar's will, he left a ton of money to the Roman people. And so, of course, it was, and also Augustus was his adopted son, and he didn't take lightly to them assassinating Julius Caesar. And then the people didn't take lightly when they find out, there was a lot of good propaganda for Caesar leaving all of his wealth to the Roman people. So that pretty much ran or Brutus and his accomplices out of Rome. And so then they were in moving mints in Greece and Turkey. And so a lot of people, and what's crazy is that Brutus turned around and put his image on a coin, which was one of the reasons why Julius Caesar was assassinated, because he was making himself into a god, a dictator, da 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 da. And so, Brutus turns around and does the same thing.
Yeah.
And usually you don't put, you would put, I think on the obverse it might say imp, which means that the Senate would have okayed him as emperor, but he was never given that title. So he kind of did it himself. And so the fact that he turned around and put his image on a coin after Julius Caesar was assassinated for essentially kind of the same thing, because Julius Caesar was the first emperor to ever put an image on a coin. There was kings that did it during Greek time, but as far as the Romans went, Julius Caesar was the first. And so and then he put in a lot of rules that made him dictator for life and all those things that weren't really highly agreed upon by a lot of people, some people in the Senate, obviously.
Okay, so. Very, very interesting there. Yeah, and I was reading in that book earlier. It's interesting to watch, like looking at the periods. The older coins look to me better quality almost, and then when you get into, like, there's some really nice early Roman stuff there.
Yep.
But then like that book was talking about actually having to cut the bronze coins in half, the little bronze coins even in half, because like right at the early ADs, the 100-ish, 50 to 100 AD, evidently, I suppose that's when they were spread out so much during their wars right there.
Well, you got to remember, bronze coins were for the general public to spend. That's what you would use. You wouldn't use gold and silver necessarily to go buy a loaf of bread. You'd be using the local bronze money. And so sometimes they would cut them to make change and things like that.
So don't we see it just like, didn't we, just from me looking at it from a distance or kind of back into it, I was watching a little bit of some history, and it just seems like it went from being a very rich area to kind of getting sucked out. And I'm wondering, is hoarding like kind of with that, we find what we call hoards. And I'm wondering if they were with those wars or the economy, maybe both. Some people were starting to hoard coins, and not much of the silver and gold was, like you say, I know it wasn't maybe used for everyday purchase in the town, but did it flee out? Were people hoarding it?
Well, I think people even today are still hoarding their
coins. Well, yes.
So if you had a lot of money, you're wealthy, there was no safe deposit boxes.
Right.
So your safe deposit box was Mother Earth.
Right.
So that's why a lot of gold and silver are not found on sites. What they find on sites are bronze coins. Occasionally you'll find gold and silver, but it's very rare, because you didn't want to bury it, where you lived, because that would be obvious.
Yeah.
You buried it out in the fields or on a trade route or someplace where only you would know where it was.
Right.
And so then they die, and 2,000 years later they come up. There were also military or moving mints that were burying the coins as well, go off to war, die, and not come back. And so some of those were actually official coins that just needed a place to keep until they needed them.
Yeah.
And so so they would have not been in circulation, especially if you find a large hoard. They're generally coins that were never in circulation. And because most gold and silver were not made necessarily for circulation, but were made to transfer wealth.
That's why you're getting some decent coins still.
I mean, if you had a small, like if you're traveling and you needed to go to X city, you might have one silver coin. And then you take that tetradrachm, let's say it's tetradrachm, and that's a lot of money for somebody at that time. Yeah. And they'd go to the local city, they would turn that silver coin into a ton of local bronze coins. And then for that bronze coins, then they would go and spend their money. It's easier to carry one silver piece to another city than it is a big bag of bronze. So, it's, they even have the little fractionals that are really small. They only weigh like less than a gram.
Yeah.
And they call them lip money, because they would literally put them in their lip to carry around.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Well, that's yeah, I was just kind of looking at that. It seems like there for a while that it wasn't as rich there in Rome. I mean, obviously,
Well, I
probably.
mean, they started to lose wealth, and so like we're no different. The United
Sure.
States, every other country
Exactly.
is no
Yeah.
different. We
Yeah.
started out with silver
Yep.
and gold in our currency, in our
Yeah.
local currency, and then as time went by, we devalued and devalued and devalued. In 1964, we stopped putting silver into our coinage, and actually, I think just for for $half, we did it from 65 on for a few more years that were 40% silver.
Right.
But all the quarters, dimes
Yeah.
were,
Nickels and even our pennies in '82, we took the copper out of them. So
right,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And so the same thing happened in the Roman period. As they got less and less powerful, they kept devaluing their currency, taking out silver and putting more copper in, until the point is you'll have late Antoniniani, which are considered silver coins, but they really don't have any silver left in them.
Yeah.
Because what they were actually doing is they were minting coins and then putting them a silver wash on them to make them look silver, but they weren't really silver anymore.
Right.
They catalog them as silver coins because there are early Antoniniani that are full silver. So it just amends, Caracalla was the first to start devaluing the currency in the 3rd century AD. So, but you had several hundred years where it was full silver still.
Okay.
So, and then it just kept degrading. And also the artistry changed as well. And so you had less and less good die cutters.
Yep.
An emphasis in the Greek period to have these great artists doing the work.
Yeah.
And the Sicilians were the best artists at the time. And then that artwork got less and less good over time as the empire got less and less powerful. And then that Jewish guy came along and his portrait ended up on the coins. And I'm joking, Jewish guy Christ.
Yeah.
And in Byzantine period, which is really the Romans, Byzantine is a made up word. It was actually coined in, I believe, the 14th or 15th century by a monk who was writing about him at the time, because they moved to Byzantium, so they said they were the Byzantine people, but they were actually Romans. They actually considered themselves to be Romans, not Byzantines. It's a made up term. And so Jesus, when Jesus ended up on the coins officially, it was always Christ first, then King. So the obverse of the coin is always Christ, and then the reverse is the kings. And that just shows the importance of religion had taken over, starting with Constantine the Great, who adopted Christianity on his deathbed. There's the saying, live like a pagan, die like a Christian. That has to do with Constantine.
Yeah.
But they didn't start putting portraits of Christ on coin until Justinian II in the 700s AD. And so you had quite a few hundred years before they started putting portraits of Christ on a coin. Before that, they were putting the Cairo symbol, which is the initials of Christ. And that's all they would do. It wasn't until Justinian II that they had put the first portrait, which
when did they go to Christ? Because I mean, they had the Caesars and the emperors there for how long after AD there, I wonder.
So here is Justinian II, first reign in 668. This was minted between 692 and 695 AD. Sorry. So that's the first portrait of Christ on a coin.
Okay, yep.
So and then as and it looks like very much like a Greek god. Christ looks like a Greek god with the long flowing hair and all that.
Yeah.
And then in his second reign,
which he wouldn't have had long hair, right?
In his second reign, he becomes more Christ-like.
Okay.
Today, sort of.
Interesting.
And then as time went by, he kept on going.
Yeah. And the art just goes. You were talking about a Byzantine coin that you thought the art was or maybe I misunderstood you. Like, I have trouble getting into the art of the Byzantine a little bit as much.
Like here's the fall of the Roman Empire in 1453 AD. And we know this is Christ because of the halo.
Right.
So we know that's the Christ side, that's the emperor side. And these were minted by Constantine the 11th, and Constantine the 11th was the last Roman emperor, and it fell in 1493, and by the Turks,
Yeah.
by the Arabs, essentially. They took
Right.
them out. And
Is that
they were striking coins. So this is actually a coronation issue when he became king. This is a siege issue. So as the empire was crumbling and they were held up in the church, they started melting down the candlesticks in the church, and the die cutters that are already left. So they had shitty die cutters.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
The artwork's not very good, and they were actually literally striking these coins from the silver in the church at the last siege of Constantinople,
Okay.
Roman Empire.
Oh,
So
wow.
pretty important coins.
Wow.
Because you go, and that's what's crazy about this book too, because you start out with the beginning of coinage in 650 BC with coins looking like, where are you? So here's the very first coin, which was just striated type.
Yeah.
With no image.
Yeah.
You go with really no imagery, no artwork.
Yeah.
And then in the middle, or like in the Greek time, you have this like amazing artwork.
Yep.
You get incredible artwork and imagery.
Yeah.
And then you get into about the gods. Then you get into the Roman Empire, which was just about the emperors and their accomplishments. And then you get into Christ, and then you end with crap again.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. I mean, it's amazing how bad that is, but that means that it's the last siege. That makes a little.
The 100 Greatest Ancient Coin Book, 3rd edition. So this is the normal copy that's always been around for the first 3. This is the new 6x9 version that Whitman just came out with. And this one's available for $25. This one is $35 for the big tabletop.
I have the first 2 editions and the big.
Actually, I just posted these on our website today. They're actually available on our website for $25.
Very high quality.
I know Whitman sells them too. And the only difference is that my dad will sign it, so you get a free signature. I don't know how much that matters to people, but
it interests me. I got to get myself one. Awesome.
100 Greatest Ancient Coins by Harlan Berk. So
yeah,
and it's actually, the foreword is written by David Hendon.
Just go to let me see here. Let me copy your. And I'll drop it.
Actually, I can do it too. I know where it is right away.
That should take
me
to their site
on my screen. Here it is, right here. 6x9. Boom. And here I'm going to put it in the. I will stick it in here. That's the actual. That's a link directly to the. Oh, why didn't it? This comment has failed to post.
I don't know.
I don't know why it didn't post. That's weird.
Oh, I gotta probably mod you to make it post. Yeah. 1 second right here. Let me get to my. Have you? Just type a couple letters and hit send, so I can get your mod you there. Thank you. And add moderator, standard mod. Boom. Now you should be able to enter that in.
There you go.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay.
If you guys buy one, just send me a separate email to the info@HJB and let me know if you want it personalized to you or not. Because my dad always he'll personalize it if you want it personalized.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'd love to get your dad on here sometime with us, just so I could say I had him on my channel. That would be awesome.
He'd be fine to do it
If he ever wants to. Yeah, I'd love that. Let him know I'm interested. I would love that. I wanted to talk a little bit about that last bronze Pantic-a-Pan coin you had in your last sale. The Pantic-a-Pan. There was
I had a Pantic-a-Pan in my last sale.
It was a bronze.
Oh, a bronze. Okay.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
thinking of the gold one.
No.
No. Yeah.
And excuse me. And I know I can't get probably the gold, so I thought, it was pretty good art on that bronze. I like the bow on it and whatnot. And I was thinking about picking it up, but I seen and it was actually a really good looking coin, had a good patina everywhere. But when it was blown up, I did notice there was a little spot of green there. And kind of.
Yeah, but it was probably incrustation, not active green disease. They look different. So I'd have to see the image of the coin to know. But a lot of them are just green patina. It doesn't have to be active bronze disease. Every time somebody sees a speck of green, they think it's green disease. It's not necessarily the truth.
Okay.
So
that's what I was wondering, because I see some.
Hi Neil, how you doing?
So do you sell any with that, or do you not deal with like?
If someone has bronze disease, no, I won't sell it.
Okay.
But honestly, it's easy. What I would do if something has bronze disease is just cure it.
Okay. So
it can be cured.
It can be cured. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I wasn't aware how
you can mechanically clean them and just get the oxides out, and then and yes, it'll have a little bit of smoothing, but it's not like the end of the world. Most people are always freaked out because, and I talk about this all the time, why ancient coins, you can't get them graded by NGC, bronze coins, because they're going to call every coin mostly smooth. It's very difficult. Most of the mechanical cleaning when it comes to bronze coins are cleaned with scalpels, and so they are, they have some smoothing. But there's a difference between smoothing and tooling. Tooling is adding features that no longer exist. Smoothing is just cleaning the coin, and then you actually cut into some of the surfaces a little bit, but it's not really hurting the value of the coin. But the problem with NGC grading is that the people who are buying slabs only are focusing on grade only. And that's not really how ancient coins are bought and sold. Ancient coins, the grade is probably the last thing I look at, because I have my own internal grading service, grading scale, like every person does. And because grading is subjective, and because NGC doesn't stand behind, they stand behind the grade, they say, but not the authenticity. I don't know if you can really, how you can guarantee grade, but they don't stand behind authenticity. And so ultimately, I take every grade that they say with with a grain of salt, because I look at the artistic quality. Something may have terrible subpar surfaces, but it is a fantastic die, and I'll pay more money for that fantastic die over the mint state coin of a crappy die, because the artwork's not as nice.
Like this right here has a few little.
Here, go back to your. I can't see your.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, thanks. Oh man. Here we go. Yeah, so like with this one, it has a couple little.
Yeah, who cares?
Pock marks there, but
you know what? Even though I don't play golf anymore, when I did play golf, I would say nobody's golf game is 100% all on. You either have your putting going, but your drives suck, or your drives and your putts are great, but your irons are crappy, and so nobody ever has it all together. And so ancient coins are kind of the same thing. It's very tough to get it all together. You're going to have a centering issue. You're going to have a mark. You might have a test cut. You might have crappy dies, surface issues on one side or the other. It's very difficult to get a perfect coin on both sides.
Now, since we're back on this a little bit, is it rare to get it signed by the same artist on both sides? Is it rare to have both sides signed?
I think signed dies in general are a scarcity. Yeah. Having them double signed is even better.
And I've also heard like sometimes one die cutter will work on one side and different on the other.
It's true. They did the same thing in Greek vases. So because you got to remember, in producing ancient art, they all had functional uses. So there was workshops. So in ancient Greek vases, from the 4th century BC. They would have the master do the front side or the main side, and they would have apprentices do the back side. So you always have like less artwork on the back side than you do on the front. Coins are a little bit different. I think they always had great artists on both sides doing the work. With vases, it was a little bit different because they didn't care much, because most Greek vases were, functionally being used, unless they were primarily made for funerary purposes. And so they would pump them out. And so you literally have, sometimes the master would do both sides if it was a really important vase, but generally speaking, the master would do one side, apprentices do the other side. Big drop off between the front and the back.
Yeah, I've seen that for sure on some of the coins.
So I think coins, they did play an important side, both sides, because it was really a representation of the city or the emperor. And so depending on the time period and all that, and what was important, I mean, look, like the Aegina turtle, they just had an incus on the reverse. So there wasn't a whole lot of importance played on the reverse of the coin, and that was just the style. A lot of archaic Greek coins are just incused on the reverse.
Yeah. However, there's for some reason there's some very cool looking incus that
yeah, they were stylistically made that point.
I really enjoying your lots that you had in this one.
Yeah, like that one here, that's a double signed right there, the signed one right there to the left, the one for 9,000 that sold. I believe that's double signed.
Oh, okay. Let's see if I can. Where are we looking? Somewhere.
So see underneath the head and underneath the quadriga on the other side.
Oh yeah, okay. Oh, see that. Well, that's good info because I was wondering, like, how do you know that that's a signature? But that's kind of common, just the 2 letters like that.
Yep. Yeah, so that's double signed.
And that's by the same artist.
Yeah, same artist on both sides.
Yep. Okay.
But there's an issue of this type that has 2 separate artists as well.
Okay. Okay, very cool. Now this decadron here for 47,000. I know it's way over my head here, but you're actually saying this is a pretty good deal for this coin. I know it's really dark, but I mean it's a very nice coin.
Yeah, you can go to the video.
And so with this type of finish, what do you call it? Really toned? What do you say?
Yeah, it's toned. Your silver tones like anything else. It's just dark toning. It's also the way the coin was buried, and the sediment that was probably on it at one time.
Okay.
Most people think of the head side first, but on most Sicilian coins, the obverse is the quadriga side. So the reverse is the head side. So it's a little bit swapped. And the reason is because horse racing was extremely important in the Greek period. And so that's actually the reverse of the coin, and the quadriga side is the obverse of the coin. So it's a little bit of a swap.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And there's only 2 artists that did this. That was Euenetos and Kimon. This is a Euenetos type. They're signed and unsigned dies. This is a signed die.
Oh, this is signed.
And they were primarily made for collectability. They weren't spent, and so they actually put the dies away and then came back 20 years later and restruck them with rusty dies, and so you get a lot of pit marks on them and things like that. That one might be from
rusty,
from the rusted die. Yeah.
But that's still nice quality though, even so.
Yeah. And we know these were very popular in ancient times because there's so many that survived, which means people kept them.
So is this his signature up here somewhere?
No, that's the name of the city.
Okay.
It's on the dolphin right there on the bottom.
Okay.
Under her neck. Okay. Right in there. It's just hard to see.
Okay.
It's on the dolphin itself, and it would just be 4 letters.
Okay.
And some of these dies are triple signed. There's the Kimon ones. There's a triple signed Kimon, which is got one on the there's a headband. We'll say KI. There'll be one on the dolphin, and then there's one on the quadriga side. So sometimes they're triple signed, which are really rare and very expensive.
Okay. And boy, this was a pretty one I liked too.
Yeah, so that's the Arethusa side that shows her underwater. with the hair flowing up. That's a
Yeah,
very popular type for that reason.
very pretty coin for sure. Nice dolphin as well.
Yep.
Some
And
of the dolphins are
you see
not.
how it kind of like has that like ridge at the top that's like
Yep.
almost. So I once went to the British Museum and studied these with an academic who knew about this. And sometimes you'll see the little circle indentation on the obverse or reverse of the coin. And the idea is that these were actually the way that they struck them was in a corkscrew method that would actually, when they struck the coin, it would like turn and
Yeah.
and get a higher struck up coin. And so sometimes you see the evidence of that corkscrew in the metal itself.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
That is. And so sometimes we know if a coin is fake based on the fact of how the coin looks and how the metal flowed.
Okay, very cool. All right, well, my time is running here.
Frostbite.
I did want to talk a little bit about this shekel.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in this coin and also in your thrace. Boy, this is seemed to be, I don't have it in my hand, but looking at the video, a very high detail relief on that.
Yeah, that's a nice coin. That's a nice coin. And, you know, some of these have gotten really stupid price-wise.
Yeah.
Some of the high-grade ones are bringing Heritage. If they get into a high designated holder, they're bringing like $15,000, which is crazy. You know, this one's it's very nice. It's not exactly that style, but it's a very nice representation.
Cool. And then yeah, now on this shekel, it's a very high quality, like you say, it's mint state. It's a very high quality. The art on his face, I've seen better art for my taste on the face.
Sure.
However, his back is just quite impressive. I thought the eagle.
Yeah, I mean, this has really nice luster. So luster is kind of has what I mean by luster. It has the original surfaces.
Sheen, yeah.
So it has a sheen on it, and so you can see that when it turns. That's why we turn it the way we turn it
No
to show
doubt.
the original luster on the coin.
Yeah.
And just to show how minty the coin is.
For sure.
And you know, this is very well struck on both sides. When it comes to shekels of Tyre, the ones that bring the most money are the ones that are the crucifixion year, which is 33 AD.
Yeah.
So, which is supposedly the date that Christ was crucified. And so those are very popular for that reason. So those will bring like huge money in any grade.
And I heard
these were made for hundreds of years. So there's, you know, way before beginning, you know, in 100 BC all the way through to past 33 AD.
And this was an older one here.
Yes, that's an older one.
And I heard that it was that yearly there was a half shekel temple tax. Is that right?
That's correct, for every male adult in the Jewish family.
Male adult. Now, would they have received these full shekels as well? You suppose for like,
sure, because if you had 2 kids, you just get.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah,
shekel. Sure.
So this could have been. I mean,
if you had multiple kids, you might need multiple shekels.
Right. That's
so. But yeah, you know, and all this went into the temple. This is one of the reasons why the Jews rebelled against the Romans during the time of Vespasian, because they didn't want to have to be taxed by the Roman Empire, and so they were putting all their money into the temple, and so they revolted against the Romans. And Titus, Vespasian's son, was sent down there to quell the rebellion, which he did, and then he sacked the temple and stole all the gold and silver out, brought it back to Rome, and then they built the Colosseum with that money.
That's what I was gonna say in that. Yeah, and then they built the Colosseum with that. That's right. Crazy. Awesome. Well, I better.
That's why David Hendon now lists the Colosseum as a Jewish coin. For that reason, he listed in the guide to biblical coins because it's considered like built on the backs of the Jews.
Sure. Wow. Interesting. Yeah. I did not know that, but that was very interesting.
Well, the reason is that in one of the, let me find the Colosseum in here, but the Colosseum, after it was built, in the top pediment that doesn't exist anymore, today, they found a Judea Capta in the center, and so minted on a coin. So then we know that they were basically saying this was built from the triumphs off the Jews. And so let me find the Colosseum. Here it is. So in one of these upper pediments here that doesn't exist anymore,
Yeah.
actually on better versions where it's worn right here, dead center, they found a Judea Capta. And so based on that, we know that this was built, and the Romans were saying, we built this from our triumphs of defeating the Jews.
Wow.
So,
wow.
Which also cracks me up because people like, yeah, you can be on for or against the whole war in Palestine, but the Palestinians are like, well, this is our land. The Jews came in the 40s, was given this land after World War II, but the Jews were there long before them.
Right.
You know, and we have the coins to prove it. So
for sure, yeah.
They were kicked out. So
well, it's such a huge part of, I mean, everybody's complete history, right? I mean, so that's pretty well.
We're all connected, honestly. So
yeah. So, and I was actually looking into the Greek, like I watched about the labors, so that I wasn't completely confused, about the lion and all his stuff that he went out and labored on it. But I mean, all that culture is tied together there. I mean, it all
sure,
that kind of makes sense once you watch it there. But awesome, Aaron. I better let you go because we're over an hour. So, but I want to get you back up here, and we'll go over some more stuff. This is I love
always fun
stuff. So, it's very entertaining for me. So I appreciate you.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. And long life and prosper.
Right.
And hey, and I can tell you from Chicago, nothing burned and nothing was destroyed.
Yeah, it's not crazy.
It's quiet as a cricket in Chicago. So everybody was so worried about the whole Chicago being like sick, like it was in '68. It didn't happen. So
all right.
I knew it wouldn't happen, but it is what it is. They really, I mean, Illinois really the city of Chicago went beyond. Like there's so much security here. It's like insane. They literally, to get to one of the convention centers, they literally closed down the road and they have checkpoints that they built in with cement blocks and yeah, it's crazy where they're actually checking the cars for bombs and all kinds of stuff. I mean, they brought in 500 National Guard. I mean, they just went nuts.
Wow.
So this place is like, and then half the city closed down. So like a lot of the big businesses closed. They're like, don't even come in. So like half the downtown is empty. So it's really crazy how quiet it is. So anyway,
that's good to know. I didn't know if you were going to be able to make it in your building for this show today. So that's good to hear that there wasn't anything going on.
The only thing I'm doing, making sure this week to do is I have an electric scooter because it's actually faster for me. Today I got door to door in 10 minutes on my scooter. And it's only 2 miles. And if I drive, it takes me 25 minutes. So to go 2 miles because I got to park at the garage and walk and all that stuff.
Sure.
My scooter, I can just walk upstairs with it. So it's actually awesome. It's actually very liberating,
Yeah.
to ride past cars and stuff. If you live in a big city, it's so much less. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I can't stand like bumper to bumper traffic.
Sitting there, locked
so
up.
to actually zip by people and go where no cars can go is fun.
Awesome.
So anyway, and I wear like an old somebody gave me like an old skateboarder helmet, and so I wear that, and so I look like I'm kind of cool, So
I'd love to get a picture of you zooming by. That'd be great.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I mean, I'm a lot older than people think. I'm going to be 55 next month, so I'm a lot older than people.
Wow. Yeah.
So, but I'm still young at heart. So so I'm like 55. I'll be like 75 still riding. I cycle. I ride bikes, awesome. And so I like being out on the road like that. It's fun. So
cool. Well,
I'll keep doing it for as long as I live. So, or until I can't anymore, and then you might as well just put a fork in me at that point. So
right.
Anyway, more than you needed to know, but
no, it's all good to hear.
I finally had to adopt readers. My eyes finally started to go. So
yeah.
I can't see those little tiny type anymore. So that's the only part that's aged on me is my. Well, my hair went, but my hair went when I was like 24. So I've lived most of my life without hair, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I always joked I just pushed it down and it just came out this way. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right, guys. You guys take care.
All right.
Have
Thanks,
a good
Aaron.
one. All
Yep.
right.
We'll talk soon. All right.
Yep. See ya.
All right. Thanks, guys. And we will catch you on the next one.